All right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to, I'll name this segment later. Spit that grease. I'll figure it out. Speaking of which, actually, let me speak on that and a couple other little notations real fast, and then we'll get to the subject matter at hand. I appreciate any suggestion that's thrown at me as it pertains to a show name or whatnot or whatever, before it turns into just a running gag that I don't have a show name for it. Don't push me because you know I'll do it. With that being said, I am taking all suggestions. Big ups to the person who dropped into the comment section. What was it? It was because someone took a screenshot of it, sent to me. I think you recommended Bacon Bits, which sounds like a great name, being that these are short. These are really like just short form compared to what I'm known to do and whatnot. My only thing about that is, and this might be just me, I swore there was a detractor who was using that. I don't know if they were using it for their own short form videos or for their streams. I'll have my peoples look at it and we'll see what's what. If that is the case, then I won't use it, just out of respect, because I know what it was like to be on a hiatus, and other people were thinking of new names for their own shows. Some of the stuff that I was using came up and they showed grace and they were like, nah, that belongs to him. I don't want to do that. I'll choose something else. So I would want to extend that same respect I would want to push forward that same type of respect. So if it is being used by someone else, or if it was, I more than likely I'm not going to use it. So I'll figure something else out. But I'll look. I want to make sure I look first and whatnot. I appreciate you taking the time to give me the suggestion. So the least I can do is actually go out there and do some due diligence and see what's what. So big ups on that. So I appreciate it. So we're looking into it. So we're looking into it. That's the best I can say. But like I said, all suggestions are welcome. I very much appreciate it. Second thing is, some people were asking, hey, when are we going to get back to work? When we're going to start getting into those 2, 3, 4, 7 hour situations? That's coming. The thing is I had to upgrade a couple of the rigs that are in this room, basically, because there were multiple people working around me, and had to upgrade a couple of rigs. And the last two smart guys that I recorded are gone. They're gone. You know what I'm saying? The audio was corrupted, video shit. So I have to re-record those. I have the short form that leads into that. I have those, but the long form ones are gone. So I have to completely and utterly re-record those. And I think we're coming up on like episode 4 or 5 at current. So give me some time to work that out, and we'll get to it. I guess this is basically a TED talk within essentially a long form TED talk. So that's funny. But anyway, so that's the situation with that. So long form videos are coming. This right here is just is basically placeholders until I can get us back to where we need to be. And to my editor, they're thinking it's their fault. It's not. So don't even worry about it. You know what I'm saying? Like we'll get it worked out, as I tell everybody who I work with and who I'm cool with. It'll get worked out. There is no problem that can't be fixed and whatnot, and it'll be taken care of. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, I'm the captain of my own ship, so that responsibility falls on me anyway. So I don't need anybody taking on any type of further grief or whatever, or responsibility when it doesn't fall on you at the end of the day and whatnot. So big ups to everybody who helps me do this. So there's that. Let's see. So we're working on that. What's another one? Someone asked, hey, when are we gonna go at LTG and his whole cheese pizza stuff? We on that. I'm looking into it. So I'm give me some time to go ahead and take a look at it. And as you know, there's a bunch of LTG channels out there and whatnot. And we'll see what's what, and then we'll get that. You know what I'm saying? I'm on that. I roger that. With that being said, speaking of which, what else? Music business Marty. For those of you who are in the Cobraverse, supposedly he died. If it's true, R.I.P. If it's a troll, I wouldn't be surprised. But But if he really did pass away, R.I.P. to him. So that's a Jesus Christ. Life comes at you fast, ladies and gentlemen. Life comes at you fast. Unless it's a troll, and then we'll see what's what. I don't see what his end game is right at the moment, because it's not like Cyrax isn't scared out of his fucking pissed and shit stained bed sheets anyway. So it is what it is on that. In any case, so there's that situation. One more thing to address, and then let's get to why you guys are here. Don't worry, there'll be timestamps. Oh, Review Cuck USA. Big ups to the homie on Twitter who reached out to me and whatnot and was like, hey, did you hear about this thing with fucking Review Tech and this second Discord? And apparently there's more weird ass lolly shit and who knows what other CP stuff that was being passed around there and shit. Oh, I'm gonna do my research on that. We'll see what's what, and then Review Tech can go ahead and catch these strays too. So why not? He's been on the menu for basically since I started, so he will stay on the menu. So why not? So we'll see what that is. Let me get some information on that. I will touch base with the person who let me know. I'll talk to a few other people. I'll see if I can get something together. Yeah, I'm on that. I'm on that all day. I'll probably talk about it on stream first, but if it turns into something like a rabbit hole, then why not make a video? It's not like Review Tech USA exists anymore. He ain't nuked his channel, so he gets to just have another patch on his jacket, as far as I see it. He's a weirdo. Who knows what other stuff that was going on in there, which makes me call into question. It makes me think, what was going on in that first Discord that we didn't know? You know what I mean? And then going back to that Dropbox, sounds like a pattern, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't sound like this was just, a one-time thing. Oh, he's not little, he is little, because he's like 5'7", but little 5'7", 400-pound Richard, he didn't know what was going on. That was innocent, guys. You have the Dropbox with the CP adjacent stuff in it. You have the Discord, the first one, that had all kinds of weird-ass shit going on in that. Don't look good. And then now another Discord is doing the same thing. It makes you... Everybody has a past. But, this is now history. This is a pattern of things that happen around him. And he's not taking care of it. On top of the fact that what's going on with Lol Cow Live and Kid Behind the Camera and what came out on that. He seems to be comfortable with it. So it is what it is. At least until the light shines down upon it. So we'll see what that is. And we'll get to that when we get to it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk within a TED Talk. Ooh, I like that. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk within a TED Talk. And let's go ahead and actually talk about the subject matter at hand. All right? So this might actually turn into a series in itself. But I heard DSP the other day taking more shots at Wings and Boogie, saying how he has a good life. He's not forced to do what they do. Yada, yada, yada. And it made me think, in the briefest moment that I'd given to it, you know what? If you were DSP, or if I was DSP, what regrets would I have if I was Darkside Phil? What is Darkside Phil's biggest regret? He has a bunch of them, actually. So I can't even say biggest. So let's just go ahead and make a list of just some of his regrets. In this particular video, I'll just go over one. I can think of a bunch of them. How he treated Panda Lee. Excuse me. How he ain't sat there and was an asshole to the Connecticut crew. Obviously, how he treated John. What he did to the FGC. His early, his entire YouTube, quote unquote, career. His streaming career. All the jobs and friends he lost in IRL. I can just go down the list. There's sagas within arcs that I could go through and shit. Which might actually end up happening. So I guess if this is how we're going to kick it off, or this is our inaugural episode as it pertains to this, I thought we would touch on one of the things that I care about the most, to be honest with you, which is the FGC, to be honest with you. And there's so many different ways I can branch off and path into this. But as we're talking about regrets, and as it pertains to the FGC, I recently, at the same time that I was pondering all this, Technicals had a video with an interview talking to Noel Brown. Some of you guys may know Noel Brown, some of you guys may have not. If you guys know the Commando Punch, which is a thing that made it on the World Star, it's a real big thing, trust me, you can find it. Look up Noel Brown in a fucking, I think it's called Commando Punch. It'll pop up. It's not called Falcon Punch, I'm pretty sure it's called Commando Punch or whatever. It'll pop up. You basically de-jawed a guy at a tournament. Actually, I think it was Smooth Viper, to be honest with you. It was a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 head. But I was watching that and I knew some of those allegations that were on him. And I gotta say, there was some stuff that was off that Technicals ended up smoothing out later. But also, to be honest, there's stuff that leads into all kinds of other shit too. So maybe Technicals will do a follow-up later. Point being is that Noel, for as respected as he is, he has dirt on his name. And there were people who were reaching out to people like Justin, people like PR Balrog, people like Ricky Ortiz, all kinds of, you know, just well-known, prestigious people and be like, hey man, why are you friends with Noel? Yo, you should need to step away from that cat. This, that, that. Kind of like what people are doing with Arturo. Yeah, hey, you need to step away from him, man. He's a problem. He's an issue. You don't want that shit coming back on you. And as far as I know, they all stood by him, to be honest. And I thought to myself, well, that's interesting because DSP damn sure didn't have that. So let's get into the subject matter. DSP's whole time in the FGC is marred in fucking petty, jealous, envious, useless bullshit. He was someone who was so hell-bent on having people's admiration, their love, to be honest with you, and their respect, that he didn't realize that the things that he was doing to try to get those things was actually alienating him against them. He's literally the ultimate mark for himself. He believed the bit a little too much. Let me explain. Wrestling and fucking the FGC have gone hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? My older siblings told me all that shit. There's plenty of videos out there that go over all that shit. It was a thing. It's always been a thing. Jesus Christ. CEO, run by Jabali, when he's not looking at his femboy shit. He runs CEO, and literally it's a ring. He's literally introducing belts, championship belts as trophies. Now, I want to tell you, he's the first person to actually do that. Because Civil War, that particular tournament, they give out actual sabers, which are really, really neat. Who else? Most places gave out arcade sticks or trophies, like Final Round. They gave out the what do they call those things? Like those crump cups and shit. You know what I'm saying? Yin Yang Twins. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Little John type stuff. They used to give those out. I'm not sure if they still do it. But those are really cool. I've seen pictures of those online. Every tournament had their own little thing, but Jabali for CEO chose to go with the championship belts, which I think was a great move, to be honest with you. Those things are fire. I had a chance to see, not in person, but obviously like, what's his name? Smug. Smug has his displayed in his setup, or at least he occasionally does. It's a nice size belt. And they're a good size. They're well made from what I've been told. Chris G, I think, has one. Justin definitely has a few of them. It's a nice size belt. The point being, in that, and Kenny Omega and other people have been involved in that at one time or another. The point being is that wrestling and the FGC go hand in hand, just like anime and manga and all kinds of other stuff. For DSP, for someone who allegedly wasn't into the Attitude Era, there was a bunch of guys who did. There was a bunch of guys who were running promos either on SRK, Event Hubs, Capcom United, and when they went to their local meetups leading into the bigger, majors, and then leading to EVO. So promoting yourself by talking a little bit of trash, developing rivalries and stuff like that, it makes sense because it's promotion. The thing is you got to be able to back it up. And even if you take a loss, if you can be entertaining in a loss and whatnot and not be a fucking dickhead about it, you'll still gain a lot of respect. DSP couldn't read the room because of how socially inept he is. So he made enemies on both sides. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be like, for those of you who were listening to those, the Alphaism radios, I love those things. I need to actually go through some of those things. I know I've gone through the Triforce one. I need to go through some of those things and we can talk about it. But DSP was never looked at as the savior of the fucking East Coast. He wasn't part of the Young Turks. That's all T. T. Carter was the prodigy that was coming up out of Connecticut. He was the one that people thought would take the torch from some of the greats that were on the East Coast at the time, like Justin, Sanford Kelly, so on and so forth. People thought he would elevate to their level and be able to put Connecticut on the map. He was the one that was looked at, the prodigy, the Young Turk, all of that. He was the man, or he was supposed to be. He was the one that was supposed to be the next one to step the fuck up. And DSP literally commandeered his whole bullshit. Just like how he tries to commandeer his father's accolades. You know what I mean? By putting out, I'm intelligent, I'm this, that, and the bullshit. Your father is intelligent, clearly. The dude has patents. I'm not asking anybody to go out there and look. I know. I've already seen it. But the dude has patents. The dude actually did shit with his life. The dude went back to school to further his education, to be better, to do better for pieces of shit like yourself. Right? I can't call Linda a piece of shit. The only thing that she did wrong is she didn't swallow. But it is what it is. Takes two to tango in that situation. You know what I'm saying? Dave should have pulled out in the story. But anyway, the point being is that he tried to commandeer someone else's shit and try to make it his own. He thought he could run with the baton. And you really weren't that well liked by the guys in Connecticut. They tolerated you. That's the reality of it. I think John and Howard fought for you. I think there's some other guys in Connecticut and maybe in the New York scene that felt bad for you. But I think you were an awkward little weirdo. And they kind of dealt with you because they thought you were harmless until you started talking that shit. And there's a couple of different examples of that. Obviously, all that smoke you were throwing over at those West Coast boys, not a smart idea. All that shit that you were throwing at fucking Triforce, knowing damn well that Triforce literally had muscle. That dude could literally get you and whoever was running around your little crew, not John and Howard. Some of these other guys that were part of Team Hate that DSP had before shit got real and then he quit Team Hate, like a classic coward, could have got y'all pretzeled up. Like everybody knew back in those days, Triforce was running with people who would do the dirty work. Don't get it twisted. And supposedly Triforce was good with them hands, so I can't speak to that. But I've heard stuff. In any case, I think people tolerated you and they tolerated your nonsense until you really started talking this violent shit. And then people wanted to see where them hands or those hooves were at. And it almost got you fucked up. And I'm one of the major proponents that say, I honestly, looking back in hindsight, I wish Jaha and Mike Watson had put hands to you. I really do. And I felt that way for a while, but then as I've grown up or as I've gotten older, I've come to the realization that it really wouldn't have helped you. You would have just painted yourself as the victim and you would have just tried to hold it over those guys' heads and try to demonize them, which is what you try to do to them anyway. I don't think it would have meant anything. Whether they had broken some bones, knocked out some teeth, broken a hand, because as you guys know, Jaha's a Marine. He's a former Marine, but he's a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. That's his stock and trade. You know what I'm saying? They send guys like, they train people like him, you know what I'm saying, to go in there and cripple shit up. He could have really fucked up DSP if he wanted to. He showed a tremendous amount of grace doing so. You know what I mean? And I think Mike Watson was yet again another one who he'd put hands on you in a minute, and he didn't, because you weren't worth it. You were just another loudmouth, pathetic little alcoholic who ran around talking all that tough guy shit, and they knew you couldn't back it up. They knew you were a straight bitch. They knew it. And even though they may have considered putting hands to you, they didn't because it wasn't worth the trouble. You would have just gone ahead, ran back to SRK, called yourself a victim, and never have taken any responsibility. It makes me wonder if that's what DSP wanted. Looking back at that situation, did DSP say, yeah, man, I'm an alcoholic and I can't control myself when I'm drinking, but do what you got to do? It's almost like DSP's like, yeah, go ahead and hit me. Fuck it. He was basically getting into his Shawn Michaels bag. Isn't that ironic? He was getting into his Shawn Michaels bag and be like, yeah, go ahead and hit me, man. Go ahead and do what you got to do. Because DSP knows he's going to victimize himself anyway. So why not? Take the beating and whatnot for whatever that's worth. At worst, he walks out with some broken ribs. Excuse me. A couple of teeth are knocked out and jaw dislocated. At best, he just gets de-jawed and a broken nose, and he's just crying like a bitch in the parking lot, and then everybody goes along their merry way. Either way, after that situation with Jaha and Watson, he ended up exiting stage right out the fucking FGC anyway. On top of other shit, by the way. So I guess it really doesn't matter in hindsight whether he took the beating or not. But I think the regret aspect of it is, was it all worth it? All these different confrontations that you had with people, all these people who pulled you out of shit that after you ain't talk shit to them at one time or another, it didn't make people respect you further. It made them pity you. They saw you for the piece of trash that you were, and you were never going to be better. You were never going to do better. You were never going to amount to nothing, and they knew it. They deep down knew it. And the FGC, for better or worse, probably wouldn't be where it's at now if it wasn't for getting pieces of shit like you out. Now, would DSP really stop the actual carnival or the circus or whatnot? No. But it's a stain that you don't need. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot of guys running around here with skid marks and all this bullshit anyway. You don't need to be piling another one onto the fucking heap. And given that DSP was running around with the same dirty draws for the same 5 pairs of dirty draws, I should say, for a number of years, according to what he told PPP. And I'm wondering too if that's actually a gimmick. Is he lying about that and he just took that from Married with Children? DSP came up in that age where that would be a prominent show. And if honestly, if you look at the concept of his marriage, it kind of mirrors what Al and Peggy have. Stop. Let me stop. I'll save that for a whole nother video now I think about it. Because now we're getting into a fucking a spit that grease with GTG within a spit that grease with GTG. We're getting into a video within a video within a video. About to turn this shit into a fucking movie. With that being said, he fucked up. He fucked up bad. And the interesting thing is that for normal people, time heals all wounds. But that never happened to DSP. They never gave him that grace. He has tried to cling on to whoever he can. Maximilian, Justin Wong. He tried to reach out to Arturo and tried to get in with him. Who I think Arturo was the guy that he was trying to get an interview with. And Arturo was like, man, you're in a bad spot. I can't really be talking to you. Which is ironic because Arturo himself is in a bad spot, even though he's coming to Infiltration's defense. And that's not really very good because the infiltration thing is bad. It just looks really bad. Let's call a spade a spade. Excuse me. So that doesn't look good. So that's a mess in itself. But the point is that for most people in the FGC, time heals all wounds. And people can get past shit. Hey, we were young, we were stupid, whatever, we can move on. But DSP never did. DSP is still stuck in, whether you believe him or not, into that attitude era, damn near PG era. And he's still hyping himself up like everything's a goddamn promo. That's what those rants are. They're nothing more than pipe bombs. And he thinks that he can just get away with saying it because it's the fucking internet. Who gives a shit? But PPP pointed out recently that, hey, you're one of these idiots who are going to go ahead and spit shit into the ether and you don't expect that shit to make it to the ear of the person that you're talking about. And that's exactly what happened. We saw that with YouTube. We saw that with Twitch. We saw that. We'll save that for future episodes. The point being is that with DSP, I don't think they didn't choose to extend that grace to him. They just chose to forget about him. Period. Like, for example, he said, oh, in Seattle, there was a tournament that was being organized. They wanted him to come out. I know some people in that tournament scene around there. At least a few people I talked to, and trust me, it's not everybody, but the few people I reached out to, they didn't know what he was talking about. Most of those guys don't even remember him. He's a meme. So what would be the point? And DSP isn't going to go because he's not going to know anybody really, and he's scared that that someone's going to put hands to him, or he's going to run into a detractor. So that wouldn't have mattered anyway. And anybody who watches enough DSP knows that. The only people in Seattle that were really willing to deal with him was young peasants, for those of you who remember that situation. And actually, ironically enough, I'm surprised the young peasants never, not young peasants, sorry, the drunken peasants, my fault. I'm surprised the drunken peasants never reached out to him during that time that he was doing the political bullshit. I would have thought those would have been the first people to do so. Why not? Maybe they did. We'll speculate on that later, for good or bad. DSP was never extended that type of grace. They chose to forget about it. I can't remember what the term's called, but it's used in Rome. It was used in Africa, amongst the royals, I should say, that when they wanted to wipe you from history, they defaced your name, they defaced any portraits or any not insignias, any inscriptions of your whatever, because they wanted to forget you. I can't remember what the term is in the Roman term for it, but I could see. That's essentially what the FGC did. They chose to just let him die out as it pertains to any connection he had with them. Matter of fact, there are old posts on SRK where people bring up DSP and they're like, we don't talk about him here. You know, if you want to talk shit to him or whatever, there's a place on YouTube to go and do that. We don't speak about him here. Now, was that something that was like a bannable offense if you did it? No. But they were very clear about, we don't speak about that guy. And it was just understood. What does that tell you? You know what I mean? That speaks volumes. You know, like what, like for example, like detractors who aren't very well liked or whatever, or who want to be, or people don't want to deal with, they don't mention them. Well, same thing realistically that happened to DSP and the FGC. They just chose not to talk to him. They chose not to talk about him. they wiped his history clean, essentially. Whatever tournament results he had, you can find it, but other than that, no one speaks on that cat. And I think there's a reason for that. And I think as it pertains to the FGC, that's one of his biggest regrets, because he literally has no friends whatsoever. He has no friends, he has no allies, he has no confidants, he doesn't even have casual associates. He has nothing. Even when he went over there to try to talk to Justin Wong in his stream a couple times, it was Justin just pitying him and just being like, hey Phil, how you doing? It was him being cordial. I would say he was extending himself just because Justin doesn't need a piece of shit like that around him. There's enough people in the FGC that are pieces of shit. He don't need another one. And he damn sure don't need someone who's literally the definition of a clout chaser. Especially after all the shit that he had said about Justin over the years. Same thing with Max. You're sitting here trying to call out Max saying, hey, you should talk to me, this, that, and the third. You didn't mind getting clout on me for us playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2, the early version of it they had back in the day. But you won't give me an interview or you won't invite me on a podcast? Motherfucker, he didn't put your name on that shit. I did that. I looked at that on stream. I actually looked for that match. I found it, but DSP's name isn't in it. He's not in the fucking title or nothing. You were just another opponent. So why would Max owe you any grace? He probably has more views on that video than you have on your own version of it. Who cares? And then how many years ago was that? Do you reach out to Max when on a yearly basis, a semi-monthly basis? Did you congratulate him when he got married? Did you congratulate him when Ripley was born? That's his firstborn child, his daughter. Did you congratulate him when that happened? Did you congratulate him on any of the successes that he's had in life? Were you there for any of the fucking trials and tribulations that dude and his family had to go through at any given time that was made public anyway? No, you didn't. You took shots at him anytime you could. So why the fuck would you expect him to help you? Same thing with Justin. Did you congratulate him when he got married? Did you congratulate him when his child was born? No. Did you do it? Did you do that to anybody or with anybody in the FGC who was able to make something out of themselves? No, you didn't, because you didn't care until it was time to use them. And I think when you look at Street Fighter 6, given all the bullshit he said about people in the FGC during the Street Fighter 5 days, let alone all the nonsense he said in Street Fighter 4, he looked at Street Fighter 6 as, let me get in there, I'm going to be able to show that I can still hang with these guys, and then they'll have to bring me in. Because I'm a name, I'm sure he looks at himself as an OG, which he's not. Unless we're talking about original Gout. Other than that, he's not. I guess he is an OG in that factor. Anyway, he's nothing to them. So I think Street Fighter 6 was his foray to get himself back into the FGC, which I called that. I called that when many years ago, when I said that it was a mistake, him not playing Street Fighter 5. You ain't sat there and let a whole generation of Street Fighter pass you up. You're going into Street Fighter 6, new engine, all that bullshit, but people will carry over what they learned from Street Fighter 5 into Street Fighter 6, which is exactly what they did. And what happened? DSP ain't sat there and was a slug and chased the FGC. He got it on Xbox, because I don't know if it was because of Game Pass or whatever. I think he just wanted to play on Xbox. Oh, he wanted to play on Xbox because allegedly he was gifted an arcade stick for the Xbox. But given all the lies that he ain't sat there and gotten called out on, and all of the admissions that he's had about, oh, well, I didn't actually buy that PC, I bought it myself. All these peripherals that I said that were gifted to me, I actually bought them. Makes me think that he bought that Xbox controller too. But whatever. I think what happened was so that's the reason why he played on Xbox. But he played on Xbox, got beasted, hit his level cap, and, well, I'll go to PlayStation. Because everybody, all the killers are over there on PlayStation anyway, because they're FGC heads, right? And that's what Evo was being played on. So I'm going to play it on PlayStation. Got beasted, hit his level cap there, which is probably right around where he was at on Xbox. Then realized, oh, I need a better PC. I need a better PC. You guys want me to play on what's that called? Not Hitbox. That's a controller. You wanted me to play on oh my gosh. Give me a second. Let me get it together. You want me to play on Fightcade? I need a better PC for that. My PC can't handle it. It just can't. I need a better PC. He sold them on that bullshit, knowing damn well that if he could get a new PC, he was only going to do it to play Street Fighter 6. He was never going to go on Fightcade. I mean, he eventually did, but he didn't get into the deep end like he should. He sat there and chilled in the fucking kiddie pool and tried to go ahead and get his, and essentially try to get his easy wins and shit. Like he out there plucking more Pandalees and shit. And then after that, I mean, and now look, he hides in casual. He very rarely goes in the rank. And with the new ranking system, I spoke about that. That video should be up by now. It's going to be interesting to see how he progresses. Now, if he plays on a long enough timeline, he may eventually get to some of those higher ranks. He may make it through those new master ranks. Maybe, but maybe not. The skill levels just, he's just not good enough of a player. But semantics. He tried to use Street Fighter 6 as his way to get back in. Try to get himself some recognition on YouTube. To try to get himself his name floated around the FGC. And instead, he exposed himself even further. Street Fighter 6, I think, as it pertains to the FGC, was the worst thing that happened to him. And it started off bad with the Chris G shit during the beta stage. And even though DSP is a beta. And you saw how fucking Chris G manhandled his ass. What was that, 13-0? And then Chris G, I wish someone had this clipped. I know I have it somewhere. Where Chris G is like, this guy, he plays like he hasn't played Street Fighter in 14 years. Because he hadn't. Chris G very clearly and very easily was able to recognize the problems and issues. Then you go to the situation with Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes didn't even entertain him. One, I think because the connection was bad, which was probably on DSP's part. But two, he saw that DSP wasn't really playing. In a lot of ways, I would say that Snake Eyes was a bit, he may have taken that as an insult. And the fact that he wasn't fighting back while you have this fucking gouty piece of shit say, no, Snake Eyes, no, don't put the PVC on my face. No, it's so big. No, PVC, no, Snake Eyes, no. You sound like a bitch. You sound like a bitch. I would expect you to do that shit with LTG because you bitch too, but you did that with Snake Eyes, dude? Of course Snake Eyes isn't gonna respect that. And Snake Eyes saw your end of the match. And I don't know what he said, but I know he saw it. So, I mean, you know, I'm not gonna put words in that man's mouth. But you sounded like a bitch. So obviously he ain't gonna want to deal with you. And then Nephew and all the other young bucks, the real young Turks that are coming up, they use you as a stepping stone. That's why Nephew and that other cat wanted to get into them long sets. Well, maybe not Nephew so much, but the other cat, the other young guy. He wanted to go ahead and get you into them long sets so he make a name off your ass, and that's what happened. All his matches floated around Discord and shit. That dude got a bunch of fucking laughs and praises off that bullshit. Got himself some subs from the Detractors, Trolls, Haters, and Critics. He had himself a good night, and he got himself some buzz. It worked out. You didn't get shit. And that's the reality. You're a stepping stone, Phil. You always have been, you always will be. If you had just accepted your role back in the day as you're just a glorified gatekeeper to a gatekeeper, you're a stepping stone to go ahead and help basically clean up the mistakes some of these guys have coming up, and you would have gotten far more respect for it. Are you a great player? No. Are you even a decent, you may be decent, maybe, but you're damn sure not a great player. You would have been a great stepping stone though. But then I don't even think you could do that because you can't identify your own mistakes. Everything that happens to you that's bad is somebody else's fault. How the fuck are you going to learn from somebody like that when you can't even learn from your own mistakes? So now you're just a stepstone. You're a step stool. You're a bath stool. That's all your function is. And you knew it. You knew you had nothing to contribute to the FGC. You can't talk trash well unless you start going low or have to resort to violence. Then when people decide not to go low and whatnot and just ignore you, then you had to go to the violence angle. Then when people are ready to bring violence to the violence, then now you don't want no smoke. Or you're willing just to take the beating. What good is a man who doesn't stand for anything? Or who can't stand behind his own words? If you're not going to be a man and apologize, then take the beating. And you're not willing to do either one. Well, you're probably willing to take the beating. Damn sure not willing to stand behind the words. You're useless. You're absolutely fucking useless. And they all knew it. They all knew it. Getting you up and out of there was the best thing that happened to them. You weren't going to be shit as a player. You weren't going to be shit as a commentator. You weren't going to be shit as an announcer. You would have literally just been a training combo dummy for people that were coming up. And that's it. That's it. And you knew it deep down. And even if you had enough self-awareness to understand that, I still think you couldn't live with it. You might have lived with it for a while because you're letting PPP run all over you. So I can't. It's hard to say that you wouldn't let people in the FGC walk on you, but eventually they'll just get rid of you. You're just dead weight. You're dead weight. And so when it comes to the regrets to the FGC, he was never the player he thought he was. He was never the personality he thought he was. He sat there and fell for his own gimmick. He became a mark for himself, which really is one of the foundations that screwed him up. He was already a fucking weirdo, and that was already identified. And I think worst of all is not the fact that people wanted to beat him up or call him out and put hands to him, but the fact that people pitied him. That's what really, I think, hurts him more than anything. That's why he talks that nonsense about, oh, once I got past my bullshit, I tried to be an actual good player. I really tried to focus on that. And then I wanted to try to give back to the community by, contributing to tournaments and like ECC, for example, and all of that. And he thought that shit would clean him up. He literally tried to ice skate his ass uphill, and it didn't work. He didn't do anything meaningful. He didn't contribute to the FGC in any type of way, positive or otherwise. And truth be told, when you came to fucking YouTube after you ain't got pushed out of the FGC, that would have been your chance to actually do something. You had a chance during the Machinima deal. When Machinima talked to you during negotiations. You had, well, not negotiations, they were trying to offer you a deal and you were too stupid to see it for what it was. You had a platform that you were building and you could have used that to bring more attention to the FGC, but you didn't. You were so self-serving. You spent so much time trying to prove to them that you were worth a damn that you forgot your own narrative. Maybe you never even had it. So that all fell to pieces. You just proved that you were the piece of garbage they knew you were. That's why when Mike Watson, Alex Valle, and John Choi had a giggle at your expense that, what was that, SoulCal Regionals? I mean, even though you had 80,000 subs or whatever the fuck, they were like, we don't give a shit. And they didn't. And look at how all three of those guys have sat there and advanced in life. Those guys surpassed anything you could ever have. You can't buy respect. And you can't salvage dignity if you never had it. 10% of nothing is still nothing. And that's the reality of that situation. He doesn't have a friend there. You got all these guys who've been talking to each other for years, gone to each other's marriages, these guys' weddings, marriages. Gone to these guys' weddings. They show up at these tournaments every once in a while. They go to Evo. It's really a giant meetup. I've seen all these old heads dapping it up, this, that, and the third. Hey, I haven't talked to you in a minute. Can we exchange numbers, whatever. Where you at on Discord? Where you at on Twitter, if you're even on those platforms? Or at least get a phone number. Fucking email, Phil. Let's get a phone number and let's go ahead, you know what I'm saying? Let me chat it up. Let me send you a text sometime. Shoot me a call, whatever. These people developed real bonds, and you never did. You couldn't even hold on to the bonds with the people in your own city, in your own state, in your own region. And now, as the years go on, unless one of these young Turks can come up and make a name off you real fast or get some quick clout, for the night, you're nothing. You're absolutely nothing. And the irony of that is that behavior, ladies and gentlemen, is something that he's exhibited in IRL, on YouTube, and on Twitch. A pattern of behavior. He has shit the bed, quite literally, in every place he's gone. Everything he touches turns to shit. After a while, you would think the average, somewhat intellectual person over room temperature IQ would realize, you know what, maybe it's me. Maybe it can't be everybody else. How is it that fucking low-tier god can show up to a tournament and people will dap that guy up? People will ask him for pictures and autographs. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. How is it that he can get that and DSP can't? Well, on top of the fact that DSP isn't going to leave the house anyway. But he wouldn't get that anyway. They wouldn't recognize him. And if they did, they'd have a chuckle at him and then they move on. They wouldn't even bother going up to you. I think that's one of DSP's biggest regrets. That whatever time and money he threw into the FGC, he has nothing to show for it. They don't care. And whatever other contributions that he had given to the FGC, it goes unnoticed. No one cares. And more importantly than that, he had opportunities on his large platform at the time to actually mend bridges and actually help carry the FGC forward. And he didn't do it because of ignorance. And honestly, he did it out of spite. He didn't want anybody in the FGC to come up and be able to get off on him. Pause. But be able to get over on him. Look at Justin. Justin's only been on YouTube for what, a few years. Got him surpassed in subs and views. Same thing with his Twitch. Max has been around as long as DSP, and he's far more successful on YouTube and on Twitch and on Twitter and wherever Max goes than anything DSP has ever done. And keep in mind, Max don't do this full time. Max does not do this full time. Justin don't either. These guys got jobs in the industry. What's DSP got? Whatever the next beg is for the next DSP tries it, so he can fill. Sorry. What does he have next? What does he have? A DSP. The next DSP tries it to feed the land whale, which is his wife, that PPP can take shots at will, and DSP will take it because, oh well, it's not actually me. He's just joking on my roommate. What do I give a fuck? Like, put it together. I think that's what it comes down to. And then now, like I said, I could branch out into stuff within the FGC, like all kinds of interesting stories and nonsense that happen. May save that for another time. But that's what that's my thoughts as it pertains to what's DSP's biggest regret as it pertains to the FGC. This is already running a little longer than I wanted it to, so I'll close it here. But tell me what your thoughts are. Tell me what you guys think. You know, how do you feel about what I've said? What other regrets that he may have? Hell, I might even do a video on it and whatnot, because it might be lined up to something I'm already thinking anyway. So leave a comment if you feel the need to. In any case, thank you guys for showing up to. I'll name this segment later. I'll talk to y'all later, man. Take care of yourselves. Peace.